All cells have DNA as genetic material. Whether it is a prokaryotic cell or eukaryotic cell, all have DNA as genetic material in them. It is established. Besides these, bacteria have certain viruses have DNA or RNA, but our concern is the cells, the cellular life forms, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes have DNA as genetic material, that is a circular DNA. On the contrary, eukaryotes have linear DNA in their chromosome. What we are to discuss today, it is regarding the DNA, how it is packaged in small cells. If you look at prokaryotic cell, they have circular DNA as in double stranded circular DNA, whereas eukaryotic cells or all eukaryotes beyond doubt, they have linear DNA in their chromosome with two termini. So this is the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic DNA in their circular nature or linear nature. But our concern today is to discuss regarding the organization of DNA in cells. So prokaryotic cells, they have a bacterial cell has main chromosome. That main chromosome circular DNA is present in highly coiled manner in this form. So around 50 coils are present like this in the cell, and this region where the DNA floats in the prokaryotic cell, that region is called nucleoid, that is nucleus like. So this circular double stranded circular DNA is folded just like telephone receiver card, and these receiver cord like structures are folded further and they are attached to the center. Around 50 such loops are arranged in the center, and mostly it is acidic proteins are involved in this in the center. And besides these, certain polyamines, because we know prokaryotic cells lack histones, which is a feature of eukaryotic cell, but prokaryotic cells, their counterpart compacting structure is certain polyamines. So polyamines, they play a role in compaction of this circular DNA with high contour, high circumference into a short cell with a highly centralized region in the prokaryotic cytoplasm, that is called nucleoid. So besides this, we have to concentrate now on these eukaryotic cells. So eukaryotic cells have chromosomes. We know many eukaryotic cells or different eukaryotes have different numbers of chromosomes. As we have 46 number of chromosomes, rice has 20 number of chromosomes, and so on. Drosophila has 8. But in this lecture, I want to discuss how a linear DNA, irrespective of its size, is organized into chromosome. Let me give an impression regarding this. Chromosomes are housed in nucleus, or they are present in the nucleus. So all our 46 chromosomes, they are present inside the nucleus. So if you see the longest and shortest chromosome, the longest chromosome is 1, chromosome number 1, chromosome one longest, and chromosome 21st is shortest, or the Y chromosome is also shortest, and this longest chromosome in it carries about 85 millimeter or 8.5 centimeter long DNA, and this carries 1.7 centimeter long DNA. Before this, let me tell you, all eukaryotic chromosomes have only one double stranded linear DNA. Prior to this, it was proposed that many linear DNAs are arranged parallel, just thread-like. But in 1970s, it is established that each chromosome has one long DNA. Longer the chromosome, longer the DNA. Shorter the chromosome, shorter the DNA. So chromosome 1 of ours carry 8.5 centimeter or 85 millimeter long DNA, and shortest chromosome like 21 or Y chromosome, they have around 1.7 centimeter long DNA. So when all the DNAs are taken from from the chromosomes, all 46 chromosomes, and joined end to end, this measures about 1.7 centimeter long, 1.76 meter long DNA per nucleus of ours. What I mean to say, 1.76 meter long DNA, or a DNA of my size, is just housed in 8 micrometer nucleus. The human nucleus, its diameter is around 8 micrometer. Inside this 8 micrometer nucleus, there are about 1.7 meter long DNA distributed in 46 chromosomes. So you can imagine such a huge long DNA is present in each chromosome, in such short nucleus, small nucleus. For comparison, let me tell you, we have numerous cells in our body. If all the DNA from all the cells are taken and joined end to end, it is assumed that the entire length of a DNA in our body is enough to travel from Earth to solar surface. So with this DNA, we can move and get back likewise to solar surface, sun. That means this distance can be traversed by 500 times by the DNA present in our body. So you imagine, long DNA molecules are packaged into chromosomes housed in this nucleus. So simply I can tell you, it is, we people are unearthing how DNA is packaged, but DNA is packaged by the process of evolution in the cells. So I can tell you, nature has evolved all these things. Nature is an expert packer. So nature has done this. So this is the takeaway from this discussion. Nature is an expert packer. So next is how such long DNA are packaged into chromosomes. I mean to say, a DNA is a double stranded molecule. If I draw like this is DNA, and we know DNA has sugar phosphate backbone in it, ASP like this, ASP, and these phosphates have negative charges in it. So DNA is a polyanionic acid. DNA is a polyanionic acid, because we know deoxyribonucleic acid, what is its nature? It is negatively charged. These phosphate groups or phosphoric acid contributes towards the acidity and the phosphates towards the negative charges of the DNA molecule. Now, DNA having many charges, negative ions or anions, DNA with many negative charges on both of its strands is said to be polyanionic acid. Here I want to impress you here how such long DNA molecules are packaged, because they have DNA molecules, negative ions, they cannot be packaged by themselves as such. If they are folded upon by themselves, the negative charges will repel each other. So that's why in eukaryotes, DNA have been associated with histone proteins to form chromatins. So DNA takes the help of chromatin to form DNA with histones form chromatin. That means DNA having negative charges on its surface cannot fold upon itself. That's why during the course of evolution in eukaryotes, they have been associated with histone proteins, which are globular proteins, and these DNA along with histone proteins form threads called chromatins. So DNA complexed with histone proteins form chromatin. So now let me tell you regarding regarding histone, then its level of packaging. Definitely DNA is very thin thread, and we know its thickness is 2 nanometer. But these DNA molecules are packaged into the chromosomes. So they have different hierarchy, different levels of organization in them. So we will be discussing these histones first, then its association with. So histones are a small group of proteins. Histones are positively charged proteins. And why they are so named? Because histones are a group, small group of proteins, and they have positive charge in them, and they are so named because they are tissue abundant protein. So that's why the name histone, histus, tissue abundant protein. It is seen that around in each cell there are 60 million of histones in each cell. So from this you can imagine how abundant this group of proteins in the cell. So now these histone proteins are rich in two basic amino acids like lysine and arginine. So these are basic amino acids. So these basic amino acids, because they are present very high amount in these histones, that's why these basic amino acids having NH group, they contribute towards their basicity and plus charge of these amino acids. Now in the cell, these histones remain in globular form. I mean to say these histones are globular proteins in the cell, and it is a group. There are 5 types of histones. They are H1, H2A, H2B, H3, H4. We will see these are present in the nucleosome. Okay, so these are globular proteins. So now let me tell you, these histones are associated with the DNA for compaction, for their arrangement, higher order organization. So now let us go this way. A DNA is a very thin thread. DNA is very thin thread. Having negative charges in its surface. When these chromatins, one thing let me tell you, chromatins are DNA complexed with histone proteins. When DNA is associated with or complexed with histone proteins, that structure gives rise to chromatin colored threads. So these chromatins or these threads are of 10 nanometer thick or higher order chromatins we will see. Now these DNA molecules which are 2 nanometer thick only, they associate with proteins forming a beads on a string appearance. Beads on a string appearance. So here you can see these structures are, this is a nucleosome. This is a nucleosome. So now this is the DNA. This DNA is wrapped around the histones to form the nucleosomes, and this appears as beads on a string. This string is nothing but DNA. This string is nothing but DNA. Now I can say, when a DNA is wrapped around histone proteins, there is a compaction of 6 order, or 6 times compaction takes place, or its length reduces by 1/6. So this is a higher order compaction. So these beads are nothing but the nucleosomes. Now this 10 nanometer thick nucleosome fiber, 10 nanometer thick nucleosome fiber undergoes compaction. It gives rise to 30 nanometer thick fiber. 30 nanometer thick fiber. So this is your solenoid. So likewise, from 2 nanometer, then association with protein, it gives rise to 10 nanometer fibers then undergoes compaction like this. Because the diagram is difficult to draw, because they go on compaction like this, and DNA is there in it. DNA is there. So DNA is therein. So now this gives rise to 30 nanometer thick fiber, and 10 to 30. Then it goes on further compaction, give rise to 300 nanometer fiber, thick fiber, 300 nanometer thick fiber. And further compaction, let me tell you very shortly. These 300 nanometer fiber again undergoes compaction to give rise to 700 nanometer thick fiber, 700 nanometer thick. So as we see, a chromosome consists of 2 chromatids. Each mitotic chromosome, this is a mitotic chromosome. This mitotic chromosome is 1400 nanometer. This is 700 nanometer. This is 700 nanometer. So total 1400 nanometer thick mitotic chromosome. So in a nutshell, I can say you DNA along with histone proteins, they are regularly folded, giving rise to different higher order organizations like solenoid and scaffold. This one solenoid 300 nanometer thick is called scaffold. Then 700 nanometer thick this chromatid, and 2 chromatids, they are in a mitotic chromosome. So this is the organization of chromatin. So by this chromatin organization, I can say we understand by this terminology that is the fine structure of a chromosome, how the chromosome is organized at the ultra level, very fine level. So, DNA and histone proteins, they are organized in a definite order to give rise to this mitotic chromosome. So, further, what a nucleosome is? A nucleosome is so there are 8, I can say, and there are 8 proteins. This is octamer. This is a octamer. Octamer means 2 molecules each of H2A, H2B, H3, H4. So, this is a histone core. That means in a histone core you can find histone core is an octamer. So, there are 8 globular proteins of 4 kinds, 2 of each type. So, this histone core is wrapped by, let me finish this way. A histone protein, if it is a cylindrical protein like this, if I draw this is a histone one. This consists of 8 globular proteins and DNA is wrapped around this. This thread that I am drawing is DNA and I take this way. So, now a nucleosome consists of complete nucleosome consists of histone octamer, octamer of histone plus 2 turns of DNA, 2 turns of DNA. This DNA is around 166 base pairs, because around this octamer the DNA is wrapped in a left-handed manner. This DNA is wrapped in left-handed manner. DNA is wrapped around the histone core in a left-handed manner. Why I wrote 166 base pair? There are 2 persons and you want to wrap a rope around them. If a bulky one is there, it may take more long rope. Similarly, a small person can have a small length. So, I mean to say this histone core is wrapped by 2 complete turns of DNA around it, and this is around 166 base pair long, and the entry point of the DNA around and the exit point is sealed by a histone protein, that is H1. H1 is a histone protein which seals the entry and exit of DNA around the histone core. So, now this is a complete nucleosome, chromatosome. So, this way, this is a bead, its thickness is 11 nanometer, height is 6 nanometer. So, now I can say the nucleosome appears under electron microscope as beads in a string, and the beads, the nucleosomes are linked by linker DNA. In that region you will find only DNA, but nucleosome consisting of histone core, because these histone cores have a positive charges around them, and DNA by electrostatic interaction, because positive charges of histones are compensated by negative charges of DNA around. So, as a result of which DNA is well wrapped around histone forming nucleosome, and a nucleosome fiber means it is beads on a string appearance under electron microscope, and that is the primary level of organization of chromosome. Another point I want to mention here about chromatin and chromosome. Just chromatin is a file, chromatin and chromosome, because this is a fundamental thing, chromatin and chromosome. And when we speak of a chromosome, immediately the concept comes like this. This is a chromosome. This is a chromosome, but chromatin is this. If I go like this, this is a, this is chromatin, beads in string appearance. So chromatin on condensation give rise to chromosome. Chromosome on relaxation, it is the same thing, same genetic material, but chromatin present in the interphase nucleus. That means when a cell exists, a nucleus is present in the cell. In that condition, the genetic material DNA is associated with histone proteins in very fine thread forms. They are called as chromatins. So this chromatin is present in interphase nucleus. As long as nucleus is there in the interphase, the genetic material is present in chromatin form. But we know from interphase, when a cell proceeds to cell division phase, karyokinesis, then prophase, metaphase, like this, the cells progress from early to mid, then late prophase. And side by side, these chromatins, because they are in our cell, 46 chromatin threads are there in the cell in a ball form. But when the cell is readying itself for a division, these chromatins condense, become thicker, because during thread form they are entangled, but when they are going to divide, they must separate from themselves. They must have their own boundary, because of which during cell division, that means chromosome division during anaphase, prior to that metaphase, prior to that prophase, they must not overlap, they must not entangle. So that's why chromatin molecules or chromatin condenses. In other sense, we say they dehydrate. This chromatin condenses to form chromosome. Chromosome again at the end of telophase, again beginning of G1, then S, then G2. So during this phase, cell remains metabolically active. These chromosomes are meant for a division only. This condensed state is meant for a division, but this is the functional state I want to mention. So during functional stage, they are in relaxed state, but during division phase, they are in condensed stage. Otherwise, they are the same. Only structural difference, hierarchical difference is there. It is relaxed, it is chromosome. So it is present in interphase nucleus, and it is present during mitosis. During mitosis, we have read cell, when a cell is going to divide, during late prophase, the nuclear envelope dismantles, disintegrates. At that time, the chromosome attains this kind of shape. So chromatin doesn't exist, chromosome exists. So now by this I want to conclude that DNA undergoes different level of organization in the cell to form compact structures. It doesn't exist, DNA doesn't exist alone. It takes the help of histones, non-histone proteins for compaction to higher order. Okay, in an interphase nucleus, the chromatin exists in two forms, that is euchromatin form, that is true chromatin. Euchromatin means true chromatin. True chromatin. This is light staining. That means we cannot see the chromatin in naked eye or anything. We stain them with acetoarsine or acetocarmine, then observe them under microscope, and certain regions of the chromatin are dark staining. These dark staining regions are called, or differential thickening regions are called heterochromatin. Hetero means different. Heterochromatin. These heterochromatins are deep staining regions, deep staining, and euchromatins are light staining. So shortly I want to mention that heterochromatin is genetically inactive, genetically inactive, and euchromatin contains the genes and it is active. So by taking the stain, light staining chromatin is called euchromatin. This euchromatin constitute 90% of the total chromatin, and the heterochromatin constitute hardly 10% of the entire chromatin. So euchromatin contains the genes. It has been seen euchromatins contain the genes and they are accessed by enzymes for transcription and their function, but heterochromatins are late replicating and late acting, I mean to say, but these are true chromatins. So now after completion of this euchromatin and heterochromatin, we will proceed to DNA replication. All of us are acquainted with the process of cell cycle. A cell divides. Cell division is a fundamental process, but cell division is a part of the cell cycle. I mean to say, this DNA replication, it is our discussion. DNA replication takes place in the cell cycle. If you go like this is mitosis, this phase is mitosis, this is G1, this is S phase, and this is G2 phase, and this S phase is DNA synthesis phase. DNA synthesis phase. That means during this phase DNA replication takes place. The cell cycles this way, and here I can say one cell divides. At the end of this it becomes two cells. It becomes two cells by way of division. Just one comparison or one example, let me tell you. If it is a human cell, it has 46 chromosomes. It is also a 46 chromosome. Now each cell grows in size, then it becomes this size. This again divides. But how this cell having 46 chromosome, undergoing these phases, G1 growth phase, S phase, G2 phase, again it attains this size. But what happens to the genetic content? It has 46 chromosome, okay, it becomes this size. Again this divides by mitosis, but the daughter cells again have 46. This implies during this course, particularly in the S phase, the DNA replication occurs. So DNA replication is an event that occurs before cell divides. This is I explained in terms of eukaryotic cell, but if you are going to prokaryotic cell, bacteria, they divide by binary fission, we know this. So before binary fission, a circular DNA which is present in bacterial cell, that circular DNA must make it double. That means out of one double stranded circular DNA, two DNAs or two DNA molecules, two DNA circles must be synthesized, after which it proceeds to binary fission. So replication is a prerequisite or an event that must take place prior to cell division. So now how this DNA replication occurs. To know DNA replication to some extent, we have a previous knowledge on DNA structure. Every DNA, the prokaryotic or eukaryotic DNA, is double stranded. It has two strands. DNA is double stranded. The fact, when Watson and Crick proposed double stranded structure of a DNA or a double helical model of DNA, they gave the concept that the two strands are complementary. Those two strands are complementary. And from the term complementary, we know that A pairs with T, A pairs with T, G pairs with C. You people, you students, when I write one strand and its sequence is A, C, T, G like this, G, 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 T, A like this. If I ask students, can you write the other strand? Yes, you can write, sir. This is this. This is T, G, A, C, 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 A and T. How you could? Because you know A is complementary to T, C is complementary to G. So complementarity is a principle behind DNA replication. So this complementarity will be helpful for replication, or complementarity is involved in replication. So this concept was given by Watson and Crick. They were visionary. They had a great vision. So they gave the opinion that this complementarity, A pairs with T, C with G, that would play an important role in replication. So it is their idea. And further, we know the two strands of a DNA, because I told you before DNA replication we have previous knowledge regarding DNA, and the two strands are antiparallel. They run in opposite directions based on their arrangement of sugars on both the strands. So now let us come to the point. So complementarity is the principle behind this, and further DNA replication is an event to take place prior to cell division, but the mechanism came later. But before the mechanism, different models were proposed regarding the mode of replication. One is conservative mode, another is semi-conservative mode, another is dispersive mode. These three we should know, but time is a constraint, because nothing was new regarding DNA replication. After DNA discovery of DNA structure, many scientists or many chemists, they came into unraveling how DNA replication takes place. So this is challenge to the scientific community. So three models were proposed, but ultimately this semi-conservative mode of DNA replication came true. This could be experimentally verified. So now my focus is on semi-conservative DNA replication. These things were proposed, all three, but these could not be proved. Only these could be proved. So that's why I am explaining you further regarding this semi-conservative DNA replication. What is semi-conservative DNA replication? So, in their mode, this semi-conservative mode speaks, this is a DNA, because DNA is double stranded. When it replicates, two DNAs are formed, two daughter molecules are formed, but in each DNA, this is a black one, this is black one, and the new one is like this. In each daughter molecule, this is parental strand, and this is new strand. Similarly, in this one, this is new and this is parental. So, in each daughter, because DNA on replication produces two DNA molecules, production of identical copies is called replication. So, when the DNA replicates, it gives rise to two DNA molecules. In each DNA, one strand is parental, the other one is nascent or new. That is why half of the parent is retained and half is new, or one strand is new. That is why it is called semi-conservative. 50% of the strand is conserved. So, that is why it is called semi-conservative. So, this was the proposition: conservative, semi-conservative, dispersive. Three were proposed, and for semi-conservative replication, this is the proposal that out of two strands they separate, and seeing one strand as template, a new one is formed. Similarly, the opposite strand is template and a new one is formed opposed to it. So, in each molecule now, one is parental, the other one is new. So, that is why 50% strand of the parent to out of two, one is retained, conserved. So, that is why it is semi-conservative. So, this was a proposal. In 1957, scientists came forward in explanation, because proposal must be verified, they must be experimentally proved. So, that is why Michelson and Stahl, Franklin Stahl, in 1957, they are from California Institute of Technology, California Institute of Technology, USA. They worked on E. coli. Okay, and further they worked on N15 and N14 nitrogen. They thought of meticulously how we can prove this DNA replication is semi-conservative. So, that is why they took E. coli as the experimental organism, and two nitrogens, N15 nitrogen and N14, and we see this is light nitrogen, normal nitrogen, but this carries one extra proton, and that is why it is N15. This is heavy, and this is light. What they did? They took ammonium salts, because bacteria take up the nutrients from the surrounding. For their DNA synthesis, for their amino acid synthesis, they take the nutrients from the surrounding. When the bacteria are fed, semanku jetale khayau diya gala N14 salt, after few generations tankar sabu DNA fn sabu thre N14 asigala. Similarly, N15 au gote batch of E. coli ki diya gala N15. After few generations or several generations, all their nitrogen were replaced by N15. So, now I can say when bacteria are fed with or given with N15, their components, amino acids, DNA, they are having N15, and those who have been given N14, they also become N14 DNA. So, now N15 and N14 are N14 and N15 DNA. So DNA containing N15 is heavy DNA, and those containing N14 it is light DNA. So this is the basis because of one proton difference, and in DNA so many nitrogens. So DNA having N15 differs in density from N14. That is the basis of their experiment. And how such small difference of density can be differentiated. So that's why they took the density gradient centrifugation. Density gradient centrifugation. In which the salt was taken cesium chloride.